Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. We're changing a underbonnet fuel filter on a 120 Prado. Basically all similar stuff for a 150 and also other vehicles, so it's not just about a 120 Prado. This is general information regarding fuel filters and also specific to the 120. So what I want to say firstly is, when this vehicle came in, it was quite filthy, dirty, dusty, muddy. It had been used for what it's designed for, but it hadn't been cleaned up. I think number of trips with no cleaning, particularly under the bonnet. As in a couple of our videos, we've showed you how you can wash down the engine bay. You don't have to do it with degreaser or that detailed if it's just a bit dusty, but look, once a year, once every 6 months, maybe before you take it for a service. And it's not so much me complaining about the dirt I've got to work with, and you're right, I don't like dirt, mud and grease and whatever either. I'm a vehicle technician, not a grease monkey. So please bring your vehicles in clean for your own benefit, and these are the examples. So this one, it's even got ants running on it. Let's have a look. See those ants there? There's one on the headlight. I saw 2 ants. There he is. Look at that little sucker there. Anyway, there's another one here on the headlight. Where is he? I mean, you know, if the car's clean, it's not going to have ants on it. Here we go. A couple more over here. So we've got a few ants going on. It's the ant video. Anyway, I hope you're having a laugh because, you know, you got to do that. Anyway. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that it needs to be clean, not just for me, but for your own good, so that we can check, you know, if your vehicle's kept clean and say, you know, you're driving it on the road a couple of weeks, you bring it in for a service, we can see any abnormal leaks and deterioration, whatever. It's caked in mud or grease or whatever. We can't see what the hoses are like, the belts, or what the leaks are. It's been soaked up by dust and looks like it's coming from everywhere. It makes it really hard. So please clean. Okay, if you're not sure about how to clean, we've got 2 videos on washing down engine bays. Doesn't have to be done like that, but the point of those is we've never had an issue washing down one of these. Like always, all care, no responsibility. Keep your distance from electrical connections. So we're changing the fuel filter. Why do we want it clean for that? Well, if this is all covered in dirt and dust, when I take that fuel hose off right there, center of picture, that goes down to the supply pump, no further filtration, that's it. That's your last filter right there. And dirt, if there's all dirt and debris around here, what's the chances some of that might fall into that fuel hose and it's all wet and straight away it starts floating down the hose? I mean, I can't guarantee I'm not going to be able to prevent that from happening. Now, we've cleaned it a lot. It looks like dirty stain, but you know, most of the dirt's gone. We're still going to be careful and take care, just like it's a really filthy engine bay, but it's not. So the chances are much better than someone that's just going to quickly, you know, slap your fuel filter in, hoses everywhere. All the dirt's going to be on the end of the hoses, right? All the dirt, you know, it's going to be sitting on the end of this hose here, and that's going to be flopping around. It's going to be banging around because they're going to take the filter off, and then, you know, some of it's going to fall in. And what do you got there? That's your contamination. So you've even got to be careful changing fuel filters. It's really important, you know, fuel systems. So you can't take too much care. Anyway, let's get on with it. We're going to change this fuel filter. Okay, so in preparation, this one's a bit different. It's got the extra battery up here. It's got the ARB battery tray, which allows for the fuel filter to be moved from here across to there to fit the battery there. And it's also been cut away for whatever reason. Dodgy brothers, anyway. Nice sharp too, yeah. Anyway, these are a bit fiddly to get off. I'll show you the way I do it. I've got a bit of a system if you've got this tray, but we've undone the plug on the pressure sensor at the top. We've taken the clamps off. We've already got the hoses loose, okay? So they are loose and ready to go. We've just got the bottom plug, which it's easy to get to once you get these bolts out of the way. I mainly wanted to show you how, hopefully at least fiddly, you can get these off. Now these bolts should be fitted with one of those flange nuts underneath, and you've got to put your finger on it so you don't drop it, but the point is you undo it from the top because that's how you roll, right? So you take your nut and your bolt, it's going to put it at the bottom of the windscreen. I'm just going to loosen the other one just a little bit, right, while I'm still holding the nut of this one. Then I can swing that out a little bit, and you've still got to be, oh, dropped it, see, not good. So that's where you grab your magnet. Normally I don't drop that, funnily enough. I'm going to grab the magnet and get in there and pick it up, but look, normally you just make sure you don't drop that, because sometimes you drop things, you don't get them back. In this case, we got lucky, see? Right. I mean, you always want to get nuts and bolts back if you do drop them. Let's try and do a better example of that on the one at the back. Now the problem we got at the back, there's also another bracket here with some relays and stuff going on right next to the fuel filter, which I can't get into that nut from there. So it's basically So it's put my finger, and there's a bit of sharp steel there. It's right on the edge of these like fuses and stuff. So again, not the best setup, not my setup. I've just got to deal with these setups. Anyway, I don't know how I'm going to get it back on, but currently I've got my finger jammed in there. Pain level's 8 out of 10. I've got the bolt and the washer out the way. I'm just going to sit on the battery for a minute. Hopefully I can move this fuel filter and get that nut without dropping it, like I did the other one. I can't drop two in the video. There you go, we got it, okay? So there, we're just going to sit the fuel filter there for a minute, grab the nut and the bolt. The washer goes at the top. See, it's just an ARB setup they do. See, flange nut at the bottom. So if you hold the nut up at the bottom, you can zip it tight from the top, if you know what I mean. See, it's got the little grippy suckers there. Okay, now once you got that out the way, you can find this lead at the bottom, which they've got a little extension, the ARB setup. I'm not going to take the fuel hoses off yet. We talked about that. We're trying to avoid, but I can't move this fuel filter because someone set up this damn, see this setup behind here, you know, a whole fuse block right next to the fuel filter, you know. I mean, anyway, these are the things that make things complicated. And you know how it works, time is money. So we've got to get to the bottom of this and undo that plug. So how are we going to do that? I think we don't want fuel leaking everywhere, so we'll sit that round there like that, hopefully. And get two hands to the plug, because of course we can't just pull on the wire. You need to hold both sides of the plug, right? Both sides of the plug. So we need to get both hands down there. Somehow with this in the way. Press and release. Okay, so that's unplugged. Plug's sitting there, ready for reassembly. Now I'm just going to go and wipe the dust off my hands, believe it or not. Cleaned it, it was very dirty. What I'll do, I'll cut it at that and I'll meet you when we're unscrewing the filter. Okay, so put the fuel filter in the vise, and this is a dodgy vise actually. I decided I needed that one night, and I pressed buy now on eBay. Big mistake. Don't bother buying cheap vices off eBay. This is good to hammer stuff on. It's got a nice solid base there. I mounted directly over the leg of that bench, but the vice is absolute rubbish. You can crank this handle really hard and look, it's still loose. It's just rubbish. There's no grip in the jaws there. See, it's all cocked up, you know. It's just rubbish, you know. If you want a decent vice, go and buy it where you can buy a decent brand. I guess Dawn vices were always good. I've got an old one over there on the old bench. It works beautiful. If this just doesn't work out, I'll be going over there. That's where I normally go. I've just done it here for the video to show you. And of course we've done this before, and it's all pretty straightforward. Nothing complicated about it, right? Got to take that bracket off the bottom, which we like to refit. The Toyota engineers, they decided that's how that was going to be. Ryco, for whatever reason, decided to make the diameter of the bottom of this filter about the Z699, that is, about 2 millimeters smaller. Last time I checked them, they were like that for years. I've mentioned it in other videos. They seem to not be too fussed about it. This is just a bit stuck, the usual sort of thing, and it's not been cleaned and whatever, so carefully take that off there. And the rubber, sometimes it comes off together, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, now I'm just going to go grab a couple of tools that are at the other bench. This is what we use. On the 150 it's a lot easier, it's a better design. On the 120 it's kind of a bit of a, but look, these grip really well. Get a nice grip in the right spot, and it's just, because I haven't overtimed it, I think I installed this fuel filter. Just get it loose, like so by hand. Is this going to turn as well? Maybe not, so we throw the tool over this. You can see what's going on. And hopefully, see what I mean about this vise? It's just useless, you know what? Going over to the other bench. This, rubbish. Never again. Over to the old Dawn vise. I don't know if you can hear me from over there. I won't be over here long. I'm just putting it in the vise. I don't have to crank the handle very tight at all to get a grip, because it's a quality vise. It is coming loose. I'm taking it back out of the vise already. It just doesn't take long when you've got a decent vise. right? You put it in there and it gets a decent bite. This is just useless, right? And then of course, see, it's just going to be loose like that. Now we'll just bring over here. Come over here. Alright, so we've got the old fill filter and a new one. One of these containers we normally use. Because we're interested in seeing what comes out of the fuel filter, you know. If it happens to be filled with algae or whatever, normally we've got a lot of these. But I haven't been to the noodle shop a lot lately, you know. So I'm getting low. So this is my last one and I've been recycling. Okay, so just want to get you where you can see what's going to come out. See if I can get a bit closer, hang on a sec. Sorry about that guys, bit of a interruption phone call. So what I like to do, it's still full at the moment, I haven't opened anything up. I just want to see what comes out for my own information. We'll call it a report on the vehicle. You know, it'd be very interesting to sometimes, you know, see that black stuff? Interesting, it's a little bit different to the usual. Black floaties. Sorry, I'm just having a look in there. That could be a bit of sort of algae starting to grow. Bit of water. Interesting. Just going to get that filter off there. Of course, genuine fuel filters are what we use on the 120 Prado. 2339030 Okay. It's not that old, the filter. It's not as much stuff in there as I expected, but that is not ideal. I'd be possibly saying get the fuel tanks cleaned out on this one, have a closer look at it, have a bit of an analysis. Okay, I'm just going to pick it up so I can get closer to it and have a good look at it. I mean, you know, that's the fuel filter's job, to filter the fuel, but just trying to look at what that is in there. If it's just... No, I think it's just crap in the fuel, I think, you know. So the filter's doing its job. I'll let it settle a little bit anyway, and we'll have a closer look at it. But look, I expected possibly it was going to be worse than that, so anyway, let's get on with changing this fuel filter. So we'll grab a reasonably clean rag. This is where the moly coat comes in handy. Basically any O-ring, so on the injector job, on the top seals, on the valve cover, on the O-rings, whatever. So we just wipe that surface clean, nothing else, with a fairly clean rag. And grab our tube of moly coat, lubricate. So we've got a brand new genuine filter, right? Going to lubricate this top O-ring. Well, we basically, any, as far as I can think, any O-rings, that's what we use. Right. That, tight as you can by hand, will pretty well do it. Just like that. What does it say? Replace gasket, tighten with hands. There you go. About 3/4 of a turn after gasket contacts mounting surface. I can tell you, about as tight as you can do holding it by hand like that is perfectly tight enough. While we've got the moly coat in hand, I'm going to lubricate the new O-ring that goes on the water sensor drain cock on the bottom here. We've got the old one here, can you see the picture? Yep. Just going to get rid of that old O-ring. We're just going to go and give that a bit of a clean, just give it a spray and a blow dry, so just give me 2 seconds to do that. There it is, nice and clean. New O-ring on. Bada boom, bada bing. Now with this one, same deal, right? Generally, by hand, It's just plastic, right? Just done up by hand, plastic. This drain should be facing around this way. I'm not sure how it was before. I'll show you, look, I've showed you in other videos. There is another video replacing the fuel filter, but what I'm gonna do is just gonna have a quick look at the car and make sure there's not a reason why that's facing that way. Should be right facing directly the same way as the fuel hose. So what you do this is on a 150, you don't have to do this, it's a different setup. So this is only a 120 Prado and some other vehicles. Like I said, it might be Prado specific info, but it's not Prado only, if you know what I mean. There is a lot of other vehicles. This is really general information. Just gently give that a wiggle and a pull and that'll just pop off. Like that, turn it around the other way, put that back in. Alright, a couple of O-rings there, they got fuel over them, so we're happy. Just get that started, sit it the direction you want, which in this case we think it's that way. Sometimes I do this and I find there's a reason why it was facing another direction, so beware of that. You know, there can be aftermarket accessories on the vehicle that are in the way. And okay, again, it's just plastic. Just nip it tight enough so it doesn't come off. The O-rings are what's sealing it, so it doesn't matter how tight it is. I understand that some things, it doesn't matter how tight you do it up. It's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna stop it from leaking. So I'm gonna put the rubber over separately. Remember this guard, right? So we like to have those fitted, you know. As I've mentioned, the Ryco aftermarket stuff, it was 2mm too small, the base of the filter, and then you fit this guard and it just falls off again. So I'm just going to have to get it a little bit out of the picture because I've got to press on it. I just want to press it on firmly like so while I tighten it. So I'm just over here doing that on the bench, and then we're just going to quickly refit it. If you want, we'll keep rolling the video, and you never know, there's also, like I said, there's also other little bits of important information that keep popping up later on in videos, and if you don't watch till the end you miss out. And like if you don't subscribe, so you'll miss out, possibly miss out on the next important information. Okay, so socket, we'll grab that. Make you back over at the car. Okay, ready fitting the fuel filter. So I'm gonna sit that filter back there in position, sit that for a minute. Just make sure it's not gonna cause any problems. Find this plug, 2 hands, connect that, make sure it goes click. And it did. Okay, so now what have I done wrong? No, I tricked myself for a minute there. Okay. So everything's got to sit like that. I'm going to put the fuel hoses back on first. Okay, so the inlet, outlet. Okay, so basically, at least we've sealed up the fuel system. Now this was the hard part, these nuts and bolts, because of this damn thing around here in the way, which I don't know if you saw, but I'm going to try. Let me get the impact drive in case I've got to zip it. Let's have that there handy, sitting there on the intercooler cover. So you got to sort of get handy and look. This one's going to be fun as. What if I get my hand actually from? Oh, will that work? Oh, struggling. No, I'm going to work that way. Might be just like that, I think. So I'm going to get the nut in place, which it is. It'd be good if ARB had these little nuts welded in place. How good would that be? I'm sure there's guys in the trade watching this, or people that have got these ARB trays. And if only they welded those nuts there, it would make this job so much easier, because it is probably one of the, makes it the hardest thing because of that. So I'm just going to have a look again. Get the nuts in a good spot. Just going to get the filter in a good spot and the bolt in a good spot. And this is where this comes in, because I'll just put that on there. I'll just softly, and I can move it around a bit before I get it in the right spot. No. Yep, it's picked it up. Happy days, nearly lost my finger in there. So really hard to hold it there and trying to get it and move it around. So put that, give it a spin. It's not going to cross thread anything like that, just gently on the trigger, you know what I mean? And then eventually it picks up. Now this actually hasn't got one of those correct nuts because someone probably dropped it and replaced it with something else. So that what I do, basically going to balance it on your finger like that and push it up behind there. Yeah, pretty tricky, isn't it? Look at that, see? It is a bit fiddly, it is easy to drop it. So dropping it's not an option. See the way all these battery leak, that's an earth there. It goes all the way around, it probably comes back to here. It should just go this way, but anyway. I didn't set up this vehicle because it's in the way now of what I want to do. So I'm just complaining like usual. Always complaining. Anyway, I think I've got it near around about the right spot. Again, that impact driver could come in handy, but we'll just do it by hand this time because it's working out all right. If you've got the correct nut under there, it will tighten up like that and not spin, which it did anyway, right? That's beautiful. So that's securely mounted. Well, one thing I've done in other videos that I've showed you, what I normally do is I often pump it up. I've got my own sort of system where I pump it up with this off still, but you know what? Just for fun and games of the video, we're just going to do it with it on. Doesn't really matter, you can do it on or off. My reasoning, pumping that up while it's on, so this is what you get if you watch till the end. This is what I say, you know how we were talking about the dust and contamination there? Let's just imagine for a minute we took the hose off and it was all clean, but it's just a tiny little speck of something you don't want in there. When I pump this up, I'm pumping it up without pushing maybe air into the line or something, whatever. But as the fuel comes up and sort of spits out, I hold the hose right there and I sort of set it in a way that, so if there's any dirt or floaties just in that start of that hose, and I have a rag under it, it sort of sprays the fuel into the hose, but of course it can't go anywhere because the hose is already full and sort of sprays back out again. So you kind of like flushed out the top of the hose, if you know what I mean. I haven't done it with this one because I know how clean it was, and I put the fuel hoses aside and I got it done fairly quickly. So, right, so that's all pumped up, and you can see these clamps, you don't need to worry about. This is another thing, people, they go putting hose clamps and super tight. Look, there's no clamps on there, right? You can pump it up, it's not coming off, and you can start the car, it ain't coming off, right? All that it'll come off is diesel vibration, it could slowly slip, right? Just need to, and see how that's a bit old and whatever. So look, all you need is the slightest amount of pressure. You don't need to put hose clamps on there and over tighten the nuts out of it. You just need the standard clamps that are there, and there's a little ridge there as long as it sits in between in the right spot. So the end of the hose comes to the first ridge, as long as the clamp is behind that second one. If you pulled it hard enough, it'll still come off, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. Don't worry about it because it's not going to happen, right? Hoses don't come off, right? Just make sure you've got it fit in the right spot, and it's simple as that. I'm going to go start the car for you just so you know what to expect if you change your fuel filter, how long it's going to take to start, right? So we're going to start it up. Okay, so see what happened? It started and it stopped again. Now, if I do it the other way, I don't get that, right? So this is what we're going to do. We've probably got some air in the line. Just going to give it a pump as soon as it's stopped. The key's still on. We'll hit the key, it'll probably start straight away and not stop again this time. Don't be concerned if you've done it that way and that's what happens. Well, this is an interesting video, see? This is what I'm talking about, right? So not always. I always pump it up with that hose off, right? So I haven't done it for years this way, but the car ain't going to start if it hasn't got fuel. I think the car ain't going to start anyway. That is very interesting. Got my hoses on back to front. No. Okay, third time lucky. This is an awesome video. So that's why I do videos. That's awesome, right? Couldn't have happened better, really. Basically what's going on there is, because we've pumped it up with that hose on, okay? So I have not done it that way in years, where I've just put the hoses on and pumped it up, and I wouldn't even remember that that's what happens. It's been that long, to be honest. I don't need to remember that. But I can tell you for sure, every time I do it with the hose off, car starts straight away, doesn't stall, never misses a beat. So what I'm going to suggest is stick with what I normally do. If you haven't seen the other video, go back, search on my channel, you know, change your fuel filter on a 150 Prado, under bonnet fuel filter or something, right? Rag underneath, holding the hose and the rag kind of thing, and you just pump it up like this, and then it'll sort of just, boom, you know, you've got all the fuel out, you've got fuel all the way up to here. That hose is still full of fuel because we haven't dropped it down and drained it out. Any little dirt that's got in there, which we've hopefully prevented, but it sort of gets hit and flushed out, and then hose goes straight on, wipe up your mess, put your clamp on, pump it again, car starts, bada bing, bada boom. Right, so there you go. I hope you learned something from that one, because we've basically showed you 2 different ways to prime up the fuel filter now and what the results might be. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Thanks guys. See ya.